Hey, DFW. What's up? Welcome to my stream. I'm here. I don't know if you can hear me. Down here in downtown Lansing for the remembrance to 9/11. See if I turn this around. How you flip this thing? I'm new with this, so trying to flip it. Well, there we go. You can see that. There is the American flag and a piece of the World Trade Center. There we go. That's better. Get these cords out of the way. Down here, all the firefighters out here. We're gonna start at about 8:30. Show you around a little bit. See, they got all kinds of things down here. This guy's got an American flag. That was a terrible day. You were probably too young to know about that. Turn the chat. Oop, I'm upside down. They're practicing right now.
Ready? Wheel. 4 and step. Ready? Hand right about here. Ready? Halt. Halt. Sorry. Like that. Yo, I lost step because I was watching if you guys had enough. Adam, squeeze this grass right here because he's pushed off this a little bit. So we'll guide that. So if I stop this, I might want that up a little bit. But I think that was a bit for you guys. Let's go ahead and go back to that. That way you guys can practice.
Training how to do it.
Still there? Or am I lost the stream? I'm hoping other people show up. But I know it's early, so not sure how many people's gonna show up, but at least I'm gonna show this if somebody does. So here's the bell. They're gonna ring. That's the bell they're gonna ring. Yeah, you were just young. I mean, you weren't even thought of when that happened. It was a tragedy. So that's actually the piece right there. That's a piece of the World Trade Center. Right there. I'd go up closer, but they're practicing right now. Yeah, they did. It changed big time that 20 years ago. It was a tragedy. If you have Hulu, they actually have a documentary on there about it. I'll never forget it. Go down here a little bit. There's actually an old fire truck down here. Yeah, I saw it pulling up when I came up here. There's an old fire truck. You'd probably be interested in that. You like planes and stuff like that. Actually, a nice morning. I know I told everybody we're going live at 9, but I guess they're starting a little bit earlier. Yeah, here's this old fire truck. Look at that. Isn't that cool? An old fire truck. From Langsburg. Scotty Woodville, Lansburg. don't know, am I upside down? I'm seeing myself upside down. I don't know why. Turn it this way. I don't know why I'm upside down when I turn it like that. That's weird. Debbie, welcome. Yeah, I'm a little early, Debbie. I guess they're going to start a little bit earlier than I expected. It's going to be about 8:30 when they actually start the ceremony. Hope you can hear me good. If you could share this out for me, I appreciate it.
Oh, that sounds fun. I want to be a fitness
See right here, this is
have
what
an audition and we're
come down here for. This is a ceremony for the World Trade Center. And that's actually a piece of the World Trade Center right there. So they're practicing right now. I'd go up closer, but they're practicing. You can hear the bagpipes off in the distance.
No problem.
They're going to be coming up here soon. These brave men. Thank you all for your service.
Absolutely. God did this. Yeah, exactly.
Is it sideways? That's what I was trying to figure out. Is it sideways? Because according to mine, I'm straight, but when I turn it, I'm up. Am I upside down?
What's happening, buddy?
If I go this way, it goes. I don't know why I gotta go picture. Like I said, I'm new with this.
Yeah, he's gonna.
Let me try settings.
The smallest thing of all time.
stuck like right in the middle.
Someone got Someone had to go.
Stepping right off. I stayed like they looked at me.
Oh, this I can
We'll try this. Yeah, I know, because I got it sideways, but if I go this way, I like I'm upside down. I don't know why. It's weird. Let me try this. I'm still upside down. I don't know why it does that. That's weird. I can see the chat now. Oh, look. I put myself. What did I just do? You can tell I'm new at this. Get out of this. There we go.
I worked 7 days
Get out of that.
summer. She was vacations in the summer.
I guess I gotta work with this thing. Probably gonna find out what the settings are. See if I do this. If I that's this way, it's perfectly fine. I think. You guys see it straight up? I don't know. It's weird. This is that new thing Cody told me about, Prism. Actually, they're not working right now, so let me get closer to the piece of the World Trade Center. Oh, this guy's taking a picture. That's a piece of the World Trade Center right there. And right here, look. It's upside down? Okay. I guess I gotta go do this way. That's weird. Is that better? Guess I gotta do it this way. I don't know why. But yeah. There's a piece of the World Trade Center. It says New York on the side. On the back it says Philadelphia. Yeah, it's narrow because I have to put it this way. The normal wise up. I don't know why. It's weird. I don't know. I think they're getting ready to start. Oh. I'll get out of these guys' ways. They're practicing right there. Yeah, they're probably sleeping. I figured not too many people are going to come in this time morning. You know.
Uniform personnel, honor guard, attention. Present. Arms. Order. Arms. Pressing the banners over. Ready. Face. I'm going to announce uniform personnel, color guard, attention.
I'm trying to figure out how to turn it. I don't know why it's not letting me.
No. After the name, they were going to okay, after the last name spread, Wayland, present, arms, taps, order arms, good to go. We do the ceremony. We gotta go, Felix.
Okay, I lost the chat. I don't know why. There we go. Nah, that's fine. I mean, like I said, if somebody shows up, I know Laura and them said they were going to show up, but I know it's early. It's okay. Oh, we're going to start. It looks like. Get out of the way.
How you doing, buddy? Good to see you again.
Hey, how's it going?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
It's a little bit hard to hear.
Yeah, it's like you're whispering. Are you whispering on purpose?
I thought I know.
Now it seems so sad that the world's gone mad, death and destruction from the sky. That's about as good as it's gonna get. So here we go, okay. All right, thank you.
I think that mic's on. I didn't know it was on when they were talking.
I think they were still practicing.
That's what I thought, that maybe they're just...
I was like, yeah, that's right, because it wasn't loud enough. I'm like,
Yes, and some of us do when we're talking about.
That's all right. No. It's all right. Now we can sit all the way back in here.
Are you washable?
yeah, I know. I said it was at 9, but I didn't know they were going to start earlier because what they're going to do is they're going to be the bell over there. They're going to ring when every plane hit at the time that the plane hit. You can see the bell over there. It's okay. They can go back and watch it. I just figured this would be a good way to start doing one of my first streams. Didn't expect it to be like this, but oh well. What can you do? I'll figure out the settings later. Maybe I'll talk to Sean, see how he did it. There's got to be a way to change it.
I take it this wasn't scheduled to start at 8.
Yeah, I know. Then go back and watch it. I just figured I've been wanting to do a live stream. Figured it'd be a good start. Oh, here comes the bagpipes. Get over here out of the way. Yeah, I'll figure it out, Debbie. Like I said, practice makes perfect, right?
Ready. Wheel.
There's our governor.
Ready. Halt.
That's our governor right there.
Hold. Now. Uniform personnel, on guard. Attention. Present. On.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Order. On. Ready? Ready. Forward. March.
Welcome, everyone. Please remain standing. The events of 9/11 lasted 102 minutes, and each time we reach one of the moments, the critical moments of that event, of that day, the Honor Guard will toll the bell one time in remembrance. The bell shall ring regardless of what is happening during the ceremony. If these proceedings conclude prior to the final moment, the Honor Guard shall remain at its place until all tolls are sounded. At At this time, I'd like to have our chaplain, Lloyd Lack, come to the podium, please, for invocation.
Today we have gathered to honor, to remember, and to learn. Let's ask God to guide us as we set about this task. Pray with me if you will. Holy Father, today we echo the words of Moses as he reflected on the many who died under his charge. He said, Lord, you have been our dwelling place throughout all generations. Before the mountains were born, or before you brought forth the whole world from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. You turn people back to dust, saying, return to dust, you mortals. 1,000 years in your sight are like a day that is just gone by, or like a watch in the night. Yet you sweep people away in the sleep of death. They are like the new grass of the morning. In the morning it springs up new, but by evening it is dried and withered. We are consumed by your anger and terrified by your indignation. You have set our iniquities before you, our secret sins in the light of your presence. All our days pass away under your wrath, and we finish our years with a moan. Our days may come to 70 years or 80 if our strength endures, yet the best of them are but trouble and sorrow, for they quickly pass, and we fly away. So, Lord, teach us to number our days aright, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Satisfy us in the morning with your unfailing love, that we may sing for joy and be glad all of our days. Make us glad for all the many days you have afflicted us, for as many as years as we have seen trouble. May your deeds be shown to your servants, your splendor to their children. May the favor of our Lord our God rest on us. Establish the work of our hands for us. Yes, establish the work of our hands. Amen.
At this time, we're going to have a special song by Mr. Tom Heidemann.
And Mary came today. This is a song of mine written back during the time. We did this at the first anniversary and again at the 10th, and of course here at the 20th. Never forget. This is called That's America. Now it seems so sad that the world's gone mad, death and destruction from the sky. And the dove of peace, how she weeps for thee, wings too heavy now to fly. Still I believe that we can love our neighbors and our fellow man. Well, that's America the beautiful, and it shines for all to see. That's America the beautiful, it's alive in you and me. Don't let it end. Don't let it end. And the souls we've lost at too high a cost, we search for something more to say. Yet in our hearts we know that peace and love can grow as we remember them today. Maybe in time they'll learn to love their neighbors and their fellow man. Oh, that's America the beautiful, and it shines for all to see. That's America the beautiful, it's alive in you and me. Don't let it end. No, don't let it end. So much sadness surrounding us now, making each moment seem empty somehow. We must begin to rebuild and allow our love to show the way. In the years ahead, I hope it will be said that we have learned to rise above. And when our children dream, I pray they only see the world surrounding them with love. Maybe in time they'll learn to love their neighbors and their fellow man. Oh, that's America the beautiful, and it shines for all to see. That's America the beautiful, it's alive in you and me. Don't let it end. No, don't let it end. That's America the beautiful.
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 Uniform personnel, on a guard. Attention.
At this time, Reverend Lack is going to return to the podium for the prayer of remembrance and the reading of the names of the Michigan victims of 9/11.
9/11 has many lessons for us. One lesson is that you and I, like the names of those I'm about to read, are going to be caught. We are going to be found doing something on the day we die. And how good it would be to be busy about doing something that is good and noble rather than something that is shameful and harmful. I'm going to read their names. These are those who have ties to the state of Michigan. They are not merely victims. They're honorable people who are caught doing something good. They, along with the firemen, the police, they got the better end of a very grievous evil stick. It's better to be among those harmed than to be among those doing the harm. I know what it's like to be a part of the bad end of the grievous stick. There have been days when I have been the one to cause pain rather than to rescue. I have been the one to harm, to lie, to cheat, to steal, to betray. And I can testify that that is the bad end of the stick. I would like to be caught like these, doing something good and noble on the day that I die. I want to be found faithful to my friends, my family, my boss, to this city, and ultimately to my king. I will now read the names of those from Michigan who lost their lives on 9/11. And as I acknowledge, you too acknowledge that they were doing something good and honorable on the day they died. Terrence Adderley, David Alger, Eric Bennett, Frank Doyle. Barbara Edwards. Elaine Greenberg. Bradley Horn. Suzanne Kontrantinko. Dara Lynn. Margaret Maddock. Kathleen Nikosa. Robert Plogger. David Prim. Joshua Rosenthal. Brock Safranoff. Lieutenant Colonel Kip Taylor. Lisa Marie Terry. Alicia Titus. And Meredith Whalen.
Uniform personnel. Honor guard. Present. Off. Order. On. Parade. Red.
Please be seated. "20 years. Seems like a lifetime, seems like it was yesterday. Last night I had the opportunity to indulge in one of my pleasures, and that's officiate on the football field for varsity Friday night. Now, half the fans last night said my crew did a below average job. They used a little more colorful language than that. Other half the crowd was very happy we were there. One thing that my crew and I did notice, and my crew is made up of myself, a firefighter, a retired firefighter from the Lansing Fire Department, a retired state police officer, a police officer that is now working in the prosecutor's office, and a person from the corrections division. One thing in the pregame as we stood and we watched these young men and women prepare for contest that night was that none of them were alive when these events happened on September 11th of 2001. When we have these ceremonies, not only is it to remember what happened on those days and to honor the heroes, but more importantly, for us to remember so that we can teach the people that were not alive and were not there to understand what happened that day. And I'm not talking about the terrorist events of that day. That's an important part of our history. What I'm talking about is how man treated man, how we cared for each other, how we responded. No one cared about the color of your skin, your religion, who you were, your economic status, how we took care of each other. If you can indulge with me for just a moment on a story of one such young man. There was a young man, Wells Crothworth. Any remember that name? I don't believe so. Young guy, 24, just starting out, working as a junior associate in an investment bank on the 104th floor of the South Tower. He always carried in his back pocket a red bandana. His co-workers used to tease him about it. "What, you want to be a farmer? New York not good enough for you?" Some of the comments. He would laugh loud, show the bandana, wave it, and say, "With this bandana, I'm going to change the world." He'd laugh. And then, that day the world exploded. He did change the world. He led people to safety. carried them down to lower floors. He kept going back for more. Reports say as many as 8 times to get his co-workers, people he had only known for a few months. To protect them from the smoke, he put that red bandana over their face or his, whoever needed it that time. He never came home from the towers that day or the day after. His parents were anguished, hoping and hoping and hoping against hope. Then one day, 3 days in, his mother was back at her desk at her home in Nyack, New York. Suddenly she felt a presence behind her. Her words. She didn't have to look back anymore. She knew it was Wells. She knew he was saying goodbye. She said thank you. She knew now he was dead. Her heart could grieve. At least she knew her son had come home. Months of mourning, no word of how he had died. And one day, Memorial Day weekend of 2002, the New York Times had a story about the last minutes in the towers. They mentioned survivors who spoke of a man in a red bandana who saved them. Wells' mother thought she knew who that was. She got a picture of her son to the survivors, and they said yes. Over 30 of them. That was the man that saved me. Sometime later, they found his remains near the command post for FDNY that they had set up in the South Tower. When his family opened his apartment, they found an unfinished application to the fire department of the city of New York. He wanted to be a firefighter. These are many of the stories that come out of 9/11 and the events the days after. And what we need to reinforce is how man treated man that day, and how we remembered of who we really were as people, and what is important to be not only an American, but to be human. At this time, it's my great pleasure to introduce our first speaker. I had the opportunity a couple of years ago to introduce her also. So please welcome to the podium the Honorable Governor Gretchen Whitmer of the state of Michigan.
Thank you. Thank you. It is an honor to be here with all of you. 20 years ago today, America was attacked. And that day left a mark on every one of our lives. A lucid nightmare that we will carry with us as long as we will live. We all remember exactly where we were that day. September 11th, 2001, I was pregnant with my first daughter and supposed to be in Grand Rapids for a hearing on the State Police and Military Veteran Affairs Committee. I never made it because as soon as I left my house, the second plane had hit the South Tower. And I rushed home, frantically calling anyone and everyone I knew in New York, including my sister and my father, who was in Washington, D.C. Millions of people around the world who had friends or family in New York or D.C. or who were traveling or who were in Pennsylvania made the same calls that day. I'm fortunate that I finally got in touch with them and they were both safe. But the sense of relief was short-lived because nearly every one of us was feeling that bundle of emotions, unsure of what to do, how we could help, who we could call, what we could do to support our fellow Americans. I remember sitting there glued to the TV for days. Decades later, we're all haunted by the memory of that day and inspired by the sense of unity we felt in its aftermath. As you mentioned, it was about how man treated man, person to person, seeing the humanity and patriotism in one another. There was a feeling during 9/11 and in the days and months and weeks and years after that we were all in this together. Americans across the country rallied. We prayed and we cried, and we held our loved ones a little closer and a lot tighter. We donated 1.5 million units of blood in the first 2 days following the attack. We stood up for the American principles of freedom, tolerance, democracy. Us united. More than anything from that day, we were awestruck by the courage of our first responders, the firefighters and police officers, the paramedics, and more who saved lives and inspired us through their bravery. The official New York Fire Department response to 9/11 was 5 seconds. It took 5 seconds to run toward the fire. 5 seconds. 342 firefighters, 72 law enforcement officers, and 55 service members died that day. They gave their lives for the people who they didn't know and would never meet until that moment, without a moment's hesitation. Their spirit of service, their legacy of selflessness, is one that we not only honor today, but we should honor every day. We must remember the courage of those who were on United Airlines Flight 93, ordinary Americans who were trying to fight back against their hijackers and lost their lives in a field in Pennsylvania. So many young Americans across the country, including here in Michigan, also took action and joined the military, intelligence agencies, or their local fire or police enforcement department to serve their country and their community. And that includes our own Congresswoman Slotkin, who served in the CIA and the Department of Defense, who joins us today. I also want to thank the first responders who are all here with us today, who heed that call every day and live up to that most honorable oath, service of their fellow Americans. The people who run towards the fire and danger every day to keep us all safe. We honor and thank you. As we commemorate the memory of those we lost on 9/11 and honor those who ran toward the fire that day, we commend those who stepped up to serve in the aftermath and remind ourselves we are strongest when we lift one another up and work together to create a better future. We remember that we can fight back against hate and stand up for American values. We remember that we are the people, one people, united by bonds that we cannot see and maybe will never fully understand. But we stand together, and we must remember and never forget. Thank you.
Our next speaker, when I talked about this gentleman, the other uniformed personnel that I serve with either thank him or have words for him because of me. I've been in emergency services for 33 years. 23 years ago, this man hired me to the Lansing Fire Department, and the city of Lansing's given me an opportunity to reach the position that I'm in. Many of the men and women to my right enjoy working with me. There's a few that don't care for me. You can blame Chief Martin. So please welcome to the podium, Lansing Fire Department Chief Greg Martin.
That's a tough act to follow. Well, first of all, thank all of you for attending today. This morning I was trying to remember, it's been 20 years, and it's just incredible to me. It's been 20 years since those terrible events. And very honored to be here. I was here when this monument was dedicated many years ago. And even after those 20 years, it's hard to wrap my mind around the fact that probably about 3,000 people died that day. Behind us, we have a piece of metal. A piece of ordinary metal from a building that collapsed. But to those of us in the fire service, it's not just metal. It's a reminder of the sacrifice of so many of us in the fire service, as well as the police officers who died that day. And it's a reminder of the continuing gratitude and respect we have for them. Let me put it a little bit in perspective. About 3,000 people died that day. Included in that number, 342 New York City firefighters. 342. That's the greatest loss of life in the American fire service ever. It's also as if every firefighter in all of the county, and then some, died in one day. That's the magnitude of the loss. The result? By some estimates, 30,000 lives were saved by the efforts of those firefighters and police officers. also a reminder to us in the fire service of the bond we have with our fellow public safety colleagues, the police. Yes, it's true that very few firefighters would aspire to become a police officer. It's also true that very few police officers would aspire to be a firefighter. And yes, it's true we kid each other a lot. But there is a strong sense of camaraderie and respect between us, since we rely on each other so much day in and day out. For us, that's about 26,000 times a year when we go out the door. But even though, we're concerned with different aspects of public safety, our bond of trust is based on the jobs we do, our respect for our citizens, and our efforts to protect them. And we're here for all of you, Lansing visitors and citizens. LFD is here for you to provide compassionate and professional service, and we're here to take care of you. Godspeed.
Chief Soseby and I go way back. Chief Soseby and I started at the City of Lansing about the same time. We both worked the street together in different aspects. Had numerous conversations at various points in our career. Have had the opportunity to work them at the street level, the event level, and now at the command level. So please welcome to the podium Ellery Soseby, Interim Chief, Lansing Police Department.
Good morning, everyone. As Chief Tobin said, my name is Ellery Soseby. I'm the Chief of Police here in Lansing. It's my honor to briefly speak this morning about three simple words: courage, honor, and time. These three words have consequential meanings for every police officer, firefighter, and military service member. Courage. There is no doubt of the immeasurable and remarkable acts of courage that occurred on that day 20 years ago, and by an uncountable number of people. Many who visit the site of the World Trade Center today still feel their courage and enduring. There's a quote on the 9/11 repository wall that reads, "No day shall erase you from the memory of time." Fitting words for those people, the good and the bad that day, that changed the history of our nation and challenged us to live courageous and impactful lives. Lives spent seeking peace, understanding, and sacrifice. For that, we honor the courage and the zeal of those first responders, those military service members and medical workers every day, the citizens who put themselves in harm's way for people they didn't even know. Courage is the backbone of a life spent defending something. And we see that every day in this community, in this country, with our police, fire, and our military. For those who know, we call it the walk of courage. Day after day, like the governor said. Police officers, firefighters, and our military, not walking away from the danger, but walking towards it. Courage doesn't mean you can't be afraid. Courage means you don't let fear stop you from moving forward. And we are here today because of those courageous people. Honor. Today, across our great country, Americans are coming together in service and remembrance to honor those who stood up for something that day. To honor those who did not run away from the danger, but those who ran towards it. Today, we honor anyone and everyone affected by the attacks 20 years ago, and honor those who still stand up for us and fight for our freedom. Time. 20 years have passed since that tragic day in 2001, yet it seems like it happened yesterday. Like the governor said, many of us remember where we were and what we were doing on that day. And that video of American Flight 11 striking the North Tower still, to this day, makes my stomach churn. As we hear the bell ring in the exact moment, the time of each attack, we need to reflect on the significance of each tone. Time has a way of healing, but for some things, healing and forgetting is not an option. A mentor of mine once said, "Time is a continuous process to our future. Moving forward in a positive direction and holding memories of the past is healthy for your soul. We will never forget that moment, 9/11/2001. We will never forget that moment and those that lost their lives and the time that they lost with their families and friends. So I ask you, today, tomorrow, and next week, take an opportunity to be courageous. Take an opportunity not just on the anniversary of 9/11, but every day to honor those who have sacrificed the ultimate. And take time. Time for your family, time for your friends, your co-workers, and time to honor those courageous individuals who are not here today because they chose to not let fear stop them from moving forward. Thank you and God bless.
I met Mayor Shore during the September 11th ceremony, 2011, I believe it was. He had just announced his candidacy. He had made it through the primary, and as the coordinator of the event, I was shorthanded. I had someone not show because of a family emergency. So I see at the time Representative Shore standing in the street. Representative Shore, my name is Mike Tobin, Division Chief of Emergency Management. I need a favor. I said, I need a speaker, and I need you to read the names of the fallen for Michigan. Now, anyone that's ever had to speak in public before, reading names is probably one of the most difficult things to do. But he was very gracious, and he stepped up, and he did it for us. And it's my honor to introduce the mayor of the city of Lansing, Andy Shore.
Thank you, Chief. I remember that. That's actually true. I appreciate it. Thank you, Chief Tobin. Thank you, Chief Martin, Chief Sosby. I appreciate all the work that you and Chief William Engleter and Captain Jason Stevens have done to bring together this 20th anniversary. That's our emergency management team here in the city of Lansing, just a fantastic team as we come here and remember the events of September 11th, 2001. I want to welcome our honored guests. I want to welcome Congresswoman Alyssa Slotkin for being here this morning, and of course, my good friend and Lansing's favorite citizen, our governor, Gretchen Whitmer. Thank you everyone who has taken the time to be here. This is certainly our last weekend of the summer, but it's more important to be here and pay tribute than to be anywhere else right now. As has been mentioned several times, we all have a story. We all have specific memories of that day. This is a day that we'll never forget. It's a day that we tell our children and grandchildren about. I am a proud Michigander, but I am a native New Yorker, born and raised, and this day has always been a solemn one for me. I remember the buildings being hit by the planes and watching those iconic buildings fall down. I was over in what was the Romney building at the time, and was horrified. There's no words. To say that your stomach churns, there is no words. My father was at the time working in Midtown Manhattan, and as has been said, I believe the governor said, you know, I called and I called and I called, and I got through, which is a miracle in itself. And to hear him from his perspective, you have to remember this is 2001. There was no there was no social media. There was no real easy communication, and he didn't know what was going on. And he was listening to the radio, and in being in Midtown and seeing the smoke rise from southern downtown, it was hard for him, and it was hard for me, but the sense of relief to know that he was safe was palatable. Fortunately, I didn't know anyone personally that died that day, but many of my friends that I grew up with, they were working in Manhattan. They all survived. But like many of you, I know people secondhand who have died. I have friends of friends that were in the buildings, or were police officers or firefighters in New York that responded and ran into the chaos when all others were running away. I was at Ground Zero a year after September 11th, and I saw the wreckage, and I saw the metal pieces like the one we have here in Lansing, and I'll never forget what I heard from my family and friends, and I'll never forget what I saw. This is that memory that we will always remember. And to hear Chief Tobin say that those young people playing football weren't born, this is what we have to pass on. This is what I tell my children every year, and I remind them about what happened that day so that they won't ever forget. This day, the 20th anniversary of September 11th, 2001, the day that changed all our lives, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to remember the more than 2,900 innocent Americans who were lost that day, the 343 firefighters that perished, the 72 police officers that died in service. We honor not only their memories today, but also their brothers and sisters in service, many who are with us here today. I hope that everyone will join me as we recognize that our first responders' actions on September 11th, it wasn't a one-off. That the policemen, the police officers, the firefighters who ran into the buildings in New York and Washington that morning when everyone else was running out, they did so because it was their job and because it was their calling. And those first responders here today stand by, ready to respond the same way as those blessed souls did that morning 20 years ago. We honor your service this morning. We honor your sacrifice. In my preparations for speaking to you all this morning, I thought about how best we could remember those we lost and honor those who still serve, and I kept coming back to one phrase: honor their memory by continuing their legacy. This is especially important to me when I recall the heroic actions taken by the passengers of Flight 93 who fought back against the hijackers and saved hundreds, if not thousands, more lives with their selfless actions. So I ask everyone here today to think about how you can honor the memories of those first responders who were lost that day, along with the thousands of innocent people whose only mistake was waking up and going to work on a Tuesday morning. From volunteering or mentoring to picking up litter to simply letting that car go in front of you, we need to do our best to be our best and to honor their memory by continuing their legacy. We want to build bridges together. We want to not get bogged down or distracted by the issues that separate and divide us. We should work together and find common ground. We can be better fathers and mothers. We can be better sons and daughters and neighbors and friends. So we're here today so that we never forget. And we'll be here next year so that we never forget. Let's resolve to live our lives in a way that honors those who lost theirs simply for being Americans. One of the best examples I can point to of a person who is living this mantra is our next speaker, who has honored all of us by her service and now serves us in Congress, and that's Congresswoman Elissa Slotkin. I'm going to step off and let, I don't want to take Chief Tobin's role here, although I guess I am the boss, so I guess I'm allowed to do that. But I'm going to let Chief Tobin introduce our Congresswoman, but thank you all for being here today.
Well, Mayor Shorey did a fantastic job of introducing her, so it is my great honor and pleasure to introduce Representative Elissa Spock.
Good morning, everyone. You know, I had some prepared remarks, and I just decided to speak from the heart about what I feel like many of us are feeling today. I happened to be in New York City on 9/11. I was starting my first week of graduate school. I had just moved to the city. I was sitting in a remedial economics class, and the professor asked me to go make some copies, so I walked out and someone said, you know, it's so weird, a little plane just hit the World Trade Center. And that kicked off a day that I know no one will ever forget if you experienced it, but let me just give you a little insight into what it was like, not right down at ground zero, but way uptown. First of all, 400 students huddled around one of those old fatback TVs and watched the second plane go in. We were watching New York 1, the local station, which shut off programming because of the number of people who were jumping off the buildings. Every one of us will remember that iconic picture of two people, which we thought at the time were a couple, who were actually two co-workers who jumped to their death holding hands rather than be burned to death in the buildings. The students started organizing because we thought there would be a ton of wounded. We all went down to the local hospital, the Columbia Hospital. Everybody donated blood, and the hospitals set up tables with phones on them because everyone who was looking for their loved one was going through the phone book and calling every single hospital trying to find their mother, their brother, their sister. We organized for the students who couldn't get back through the tunnels and the bridges, and we listened as hour after hour, every single first responder, police car, state fire truck headed south towards the flames. We talked about that day. I think the iconic image, if I were to make a statue of 9/11, is the picture of the firefighter heading towards the building as people were coming out. But that happened, that concept happened for 1 million people that day in New York City. People doing small things for each other. You know, many of the women who were fleeing the buildings were wearing their high heels because they had been at work, and they had taken off their heels and they were walking miles and miles over bridges through the city to get home, covered in dust. And there was a man at 34th Street who owned a shoe store, and all he did was just hand out shoes, ask people, what size are you, and just handed out his entire inventory. We had F-16s flying over the city of New York. Those are fighter jets that I don't think any of us have ever imagined would fly over an American city. And the smell and the smoke that stayed with us for weeks and months were this constant reminder of what had happened. I think while it was terrible to be there, as some of the speakers have mentioned, I am so glad that I got to experience what life was like in that city for the 2, 3, 4 weeks after those events. New York City is not a warm and fuzzy place. It is not a place where people talk to each other. And for those 2, 3, 4 weeks, strangers talked to strangers. We helped each other. People of all backgrounds engaged with each other. Most of the city was closed in the days after 9/11. Of course, the supermarkets and the bodegas were full. People wanted food because they were stressed out about what was going on. And there was long lines snaking out of these places. I waited in line and finally got up to the counter to check out. And I said to the woman behind the counter, I'm so sorry that you have to be in here working when the rest of the city's closed. I'm so sorry, it's so busy and you're the only one here. And she said, this has been the best day of work that I've ever had in my life. Because every single person talked to me, engaged with me, treated me like a human being. And I think that spirit, more than anything else, is what I take from 9/11, and it's the thing we are missing the most right now. That idea that we are on the same team, that we as Americans can be very different, but we all love this country and we want it to be a better place. The other thing we take from it, I mean, as someone who, after 9/11, that day changed my life, I decided to go into national security. I was recruited by the CIA to be a Middle East analyst, and within a year of joining up, I was sent to Iraq on my first of 3 tours. I met my husband, an Army colonel in Iraq. So 9/11 deeply affected both of our lives, and now my stepdaughter is an Army officer serving. Public service is the greatest love letter to your country that you can send. Your time and your sweat that these first responders, that these police, that our emergency services put in, that is work without fanfare, certainly not for the money, but is because you believe in something bigger than yourself, in your community and your country. And if you would have told me as a CIA analyst right after 9/11 that we would have gone 20 years without another major terrorist attack on this country, I would have never put money on that. And that doesn't happen by accident. We protected our country, and this state, we don't talk about it a lot, but we are a border state that is on the front line of Homeland Security. We're Michiganders, so we don't brag about how we've protected the busiest commercial border, land border in the country, every single day. We don't talk about the fact that because of our international airports, we are an international state, and we have not had another major terrorist attack in this country. And that is because of the people who are standing here. Our police and fire and first responders are part of a network that has protected us for 20 years. And if we don't invest in that and care about that, that goes away. After this ceremony, we'll all go on to our Saturday plans. I'm sure everyone has great things that we're gonna do today. We'll go to a soccer game, we'll go hang out with friends. We do that because we are free to enjoy a life without attack, without fearing about our kids when they go into a public place. And I think the strongest thing that I take from this being the 20th anniversary is this refusal to believe that we're not on the same team. We are different, but we are on the same team. And I hope that that is something that this day instills in our kids. And I hope that they get the opportunity to feel that way, because we are safer because of that unity. I thank everyone here who's standing in uniform, everyone who stood up, decided to volunteer to do something without promise of praise or financial riches. You are the thing that allows us to have the lives that we want here, and I thank you for it. Thank you very much.
As we bring this remembrance ceremony to a close, I'm going to take a little liberty again. I'm trying, I guess, after 7 years of being the MC, maybe if I take enough liberties at some point, someone's going to stop asking me to be the MC. You've heard many stories about the events of that day. And the one that Representative Slotkin brought up about the shoe store owner, that reminded me very deeply of one that I read about 6 months ago. Man was working in the towers, I'll keep it short, working in the towers, went to work that day in the financial district, wearing his suit. He says, I was wearing my penny loafers with no socks. After 20 minutes, he successfully self-evacuated from the building, his suit torn, bloody, his feet hurt, scratched, his shoes falling apart. And one man didn't know his name, didn't even get to know what his name was until a year later, stopped him, checked on him, took him back to his apartment in Lower Manhattan, washed his face, washed his feet, and gave him a pair of his shoes. The man that was working the tower said, because of that action, I could walk home and be with my family that day. So as we close, to my brothers and sisters in uniform, I don't say this enough. I am very proud of the work that you do. And I love every one of you, and I will back you any day of the week. I'll always be there for you. To our leaders, I challenge you to set the example for us and for the people of this city and country. Let us understand once again of what it's to be human and take care of our fellow person. To the adults here, I challenge every one of you to do that one thing. Wash someone's feet, give them the shoes so they can be with their families, so they can be made whole again, if not for 1 minute. I challenge you to educate the youngsters that are here and those of the future. This is the first generation that was born after the events and were not alive. They have reached a point of maturity. We need to remind them not only the events of that day, but what is important about being human and taking care of your fellow man. I invite all of you after the ceremony is over to come up and please put your hand on the steel. Feel the vibration, feel the spirits, feel the coldness. And remember the events that day, and remember how we came together not only as a country, but as people. Thank you.
and I don't know, maybe 5 minutes had been on there. And even something simple like that, just a memorial, no speaking, no sound, no nothing, and people would say, thank you for doing this.
Closer look to this. Imagine the tragedy that day. People that died. I'm touching it. Rest in peace.
As I say that.
Especially as we get older, right?
Exactly. Last time I saw you something like this, I was shooting.
Well, thank you for hanging in there, Debbie. I know this wasn't the greatest. Said I'm still learning about this. Hopefully I'll get better. I didn't expect anybody else to show up. I mean, it was early. Everybody's got their own lives, you know. Said I know it was shaky. I should have brought my hooked up my tripod. I had to show us, you know. I have other videos on like every year that I come down and do this. Oh my God, dude, Mr. Party. This is a local celebrity around here. That black guy right there in the little top hat. It's called Mr. Party. He's a local celebrity around here. I'm cutting out. Uh-oh. There's that. Let me walk over here and I'll probably end this.
I thought maybe you were Mr. Tobin's. I was like,
beautiful work, guys. Beautiful work.
Thank you. All right, I'm gonna start getting this stuff in order.
I'm gonna sit over here, sit down here for a minute, and keep this around on me. All right. I want to thank you for sticking in there. I know, like I said, it got shaky and all that. Hopefully, I get better at it. Learning new things every day, you know. I just figured I'd try it. I don't know why it won't let me do that flipping thing. I'll have to figure it out. I have to ask Sean. Sean's the one who showed me about this. This pyramid thing. Something like that. Piece of the World Trade Center again. everybody remember, never forget. And like I said in my TikTok video, see these firefighters and police officers, make sure you thank them for their service when you see them. All of them. Brave. Not just, I mean, thank the soldiers too. These men are brave. Yeah, it was a long time to hold the phone. Like I said, I kept having to switch my hands and all that. But I was going to stick it out. Said I know this ain't the greatest one. But thank you again, Debbie. Said hopefully next time, my next one will be better. So, alright, I gotta head home. I did work last night, so I'm a little tired, so I do need to get some sleep. So, you have a blessed day. And anybody that watches us back, you have a blessed day. So, if you like this, if you didn't, you know, give me a thumbs up, give me a thumbs down. Hey, you know, it's all good. But I had to show, you know, the whole 9/11 thing. I do have another video coming out. I have to work on it. I went to a concert last night, a tribute to 9/11. I have to work on that one, so be prepared for that one. And so, yeah, that'll be coming on later on. So, until next time, have a blessed day, and see you around the mitten.